Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic is called But Black Criminality While Minimizing Others' Criminality, the Demonic Games of It. Unfortunately, as I continue to say this many times, and I have to stand by what I say on this, the American blacks only have half a generation to one generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American black culture. Unfortunately, there's too many problems going on internally, and there's too much lack of numbers of American blacks that are going to do anything to resolve or reduce down the so many problems. Now, a lot of those things have been done on purpose by the system of supremacy, which is the most awesome the most awesome mental manipulation force that has ever existed. See, the thing about even when you relay over information, then you have numbers of American blacks and some others. This is what they do.
Sorry, Kevin Bacon wasn't in Footloose. What? Of course he was. No, he wasn't. You lose. Of course he was. He was the star. Nope, you're wrong. Look it up. I don't have to look it up. It's common knowledge. He was on the cover of People magazine when the movie. Everyone knows Kevin Bacon was the star of Footloose. It was a huge movie. He was the lead. No.
See, this is what supremacy do. They look at numbers of American blacks and say, wow, we continue to keep playing the most nonsensical tactics on American black culture. And millions of them, with few exceptions, continue to sit there and allow us, the most powerful supremacist people that have ever existed. And numbers of American blacks still haven't figured it out. I mean, let me show you something here. What other culture had to have this, a colored waiting room? But you still have numbers of American blacks that continue to keep talking about people of color and minority. And when I get you, I'm going to show you something in a second about the picture of what we would call a minority. Let me sit there and show you something here for a second relating to this particular topic. They would be considered a minority. Okay. But again, the system of supremacy is the most awesome mental manipulation force that has ever existed. This is what they know is going to happen. You know what's coming soon. They know it. And unfortunately, numbers of American blacks still don't realize what is heading their direction. See, this system says, well, we don't have a problem with allowing a few little Negroes to look like they're successful. That's not a big thing. We're not worried about a few little celebrities that we pay a little change to make them act like that they are the top of the line echelon of American blacks. And when it happens, this is what supremacist does to numbers of American blacks who look at this foolishness on that. Yeah. This is what makes the power of supremacy the most awesome mental manipulation force that has ever existed. Again, let me show you that American blacks? Of course not. Of course not. But let me go ahead and read something for you relating to this uh, topic. But black criminality, while minimizing others' criminality, the demonic game of it. Now, I want you, while I'm reading this, let me play this again. Years old. And again, this is what supremacists doing when they sit there and know millions of American blacks still don't realize the game they keep playing upon the millions of American blacks when they keep talking about the ideological people of color and minority. This is what they do. But to continue reading about this, let me continue to read about this on this. Lempinski, 29, was arrested. Was arrested. Give me one moment. Give me one moment here. I want to show something while I'm doing this. And they talk about, according to many different local media outlets, that Lempinski had at least 5 run-ins with officers in the greater Hartford metropolitan area during April. They said the latest series of incidents started late Monday when police was doing whatever they was doing, and Lempinski shouted at an on-duty state police sergeant, and he asked him if he was a cop. And the person said, "Yeah, I'm a cop." And then this guy, he said, "Wait a minute, but there are numbers of American blacks in enforcement. How many of them have said themselves that they experience racism within various parts of the force?" You see the nonsense of the game of that? But see, there are certain personnel within certain parts of Banana-based culture and certain parts of enforcement that it's been such a naturally grainess that the hatred of American blacks, anything dealing with reality, that certain ones that cannot stand. And then what happens? You have some other different cultures that Susan come lately and Johnny come lately, right? They, some of them that, or however numbers of them that get on, are able to get on the forest, right? Not prior to the American blacks get on the forest, which wasn't a long time ago, right? So you want to hear a lot of different type of Asian enforcement personnel, a lot of type of Hispanic numbers enforcement. You surely would heard numbers of what we call Native American enforcement prior to the American blacks. You want to have that. You would not have had numbers of these various other cultures in enforcement prior to the American black personnel in enforcement on. So this particular person, let me play this demonic odd person again while I'm reading that. And remember, this guy's 29 years old. Lives. But they want to tell American blacks, oh, they're anti-police. Golly, what a disgusting game. And so it was said that this Lempinski was using profane language, and then he threatened to remove this sergeant specifically. He threatened to remove this sergeant specifically. And so he said the sergeant attempted to take the defendant into custody, but Lempinski allegedly drove off in his car while shouting an array of profanities that the police allege. Then the defendant, Lempinski, came to a stop. He made some kind of obscene hand gesture. He screamed additional profanities at the sergeant and drove off again, but again, right, treating this demonic being as a human being, even though he's already said that he removes cops' lives. Even though he's saying that he removes cops' lives, or in his mindset, he believes he is about removing cops' lives, but he still was treated as a human being. Now, let this been an American black man. You know what happened. And so the thing about it is, the sergeant next attempted to take the defendant again to custody, but Lempinski drove off in his car while shouting, like I said, profanities. Then they said then the defendant came to a stop, made again some obscene hand gestures, screamed additional profanities at the sergeant, and drove off again. They said the sergeant briefly lost sight of the sedan, but then he spotted it again, and he activated the police unit's emergency lights and the siren to make a traffic stop. But he already tried to take the demonic being, the not demonic person, in the custody the first time around, right? And he drove off, right? I guess, right? So they said that it was alleged that Lempinski, the 29-year-old guy from the predominate culture, they say he then accelerated to speeds over 100 miles on the Interstate 91. Let me say it again. They said Lempinski allegedly accelerated to speeds over 100 miles per hour on Interstate 91 going south, causing law enforcement to eventually give up the chase in the interest of public safety. Even though he's already said that he's about removing cops' lives, right? A man within the Padana-based culture says he's about removing cops' lives, and he threatened the Pacific police sergeant, but he still was treated as a human being and still allowed to go. Right? Even though when the sergeant was trying to stop him, he took off again, right? Which is, wouldn't that be a dangerous situation to also pedestrians and the safety of other people? Hmm. So they said search and shoot. And let me go back. They said also that after the high speed chase was aborted, Lempinski was determined to be the vehicle owner and identified as a suspect in the threatening incident, whatever that's supposed to mean. They said that they also learned that the defendant, this guy within the predominant culture, who by his last name Lempinski would be considered a minority, but numbers of American blacks, right? Millions being, not thinking logically, that this guy would be considered a people of color. I mean, excuse me, he would be considered. down the street on these cross streets. I mean, this is a weird, wild way. They call him walking down the streets of Asylum Avenue and Ucello or Ucello, whatever it is, street around about 9:50 a.m. And so when they said the state police said when law enforcement identified themselves, the defendant pulled out a knife. This whatever person pulled out a knife, and his life is still spared. Even though previously, when that police sergeant was trying to get him to comply, right, and that guy drove off, even though right before that, this demonic being said that to the sergeant when he asked, "Are you a cop?" Which you kind of questioned that, especially if his uniform on. And so when the sergeant said, "Yes, I'm a cop," and then again, this guy, 29 years old only, Lempinski said that he is about removing cops' lives. What? If that had been again American black, you know what would have happened. I mean, look at this face. Look at that face. Look at those eyes. Look at that face. Look at those eyes again. Do those seem like eyes of compassion and humanity? So, as they caught him walking down the street, remember he pulled out a knife. They said police claimed, and he said the person Lipinski was doing, was saying obscenities continued. And so they said the defendant complied when told to drop the knife, but he pulled out a knife. And already he's always showed disregard already to any kind of safety by driving 100 miles per hour. And then he's sitting there threatening the police sergeant and talking about he is about removing cops' lives when he asked the sergeant, was he a cop? Golly. So they say he was charged with assault on a public safety officer, criminal attempt to commit assault in the first degree, interfering with an officer, and carrying a dangerous weapon. They say also was charged with second degree threatening, first degree reckless endangerment, reckless driving, and disobeying the signal of an officer, attempting to elude or attempt an officer over. They said local warrants were filed against Lipinski in the cities of Hartford, West Hartford, and Canton. Each of those warrants accused him of engaging police in pursuit. Hartford police also alleged separate incidents in which he drove reckless. In which he drove recklessly. Tried to interfere with officers, made threats, made threats, made threats, made threats. And he still survived. Pull out a knife, still survived. And he said he breached the peace. Similar charges were filed in West Hartford. Similar charges were filed in West Hartford. 1 second here. When you look at things like this, it is such an insult. It is such an insult. This guy was only 29 years old. and he made a threat to a police sergeant that he removes cops' lives. And this guy, and this guy was not taken to custody at that moment, because even when the sergeant was like, maybe trying to arrest him in whatever way he was trying to do something, he still took off. He still was allowed to sit there and be a human, right? Now, after all that damage he didn't cause, pulling knives out, reckless driving, threatening cops, he still when and well, he eventually complied. After all that terribleness, it's as if there's some hesitation of humanity first. But if that was an American black man, specifically, American black women, but specifically American black male, because they are the most threatening in society while not being threatening. Even though the American black male overall collectively is not about violence at all. But the system of supremacy, the most brilliant mental manipulation force on this planet, they want to only portray black males as either uh, uh, hardcore threatening, anti-police, criminality, or on the flip side, this is the other side they'll show American black males as. Yes, look at that. This is how they show American black males as well. Docile, right? Just super docile, or animal-like. And again, the nerve of some people who know they are that voluntarily are able to come to within this country. Not some of the good ones, but I'm talking about the ones, not that. Some of the good ones. I'm not talking about some of the good ones. I'm talking about the ones who know they are that benefit off coming over off of what black people, American black folks, have been going through for centuries, and have the audacity to open their mouths up and try to talk about American blacks. Who what these people think they are, the ones I'm talking about. When these personnel run as fast as possible by plane, by other ones breaking immigration laws, going across the border, by doing whatever they're doing, running to whatever offices and trying to get on some kind of uh, 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 correspondence to get to the country as fast as possible. Because in their own person's country, they will not stand out. But it's not enough American blacks to call these personnel out. But I just wanted to relay this particular topic, right? But black criminality while minimizing others' criminality. See, they'll say you got people saying, well, it's not all. It's not all. What do you mean it's not all? Well, it's not all, but at the same time, when they sit there want to portray black males as this buffoonery, docile, they don't have a problem with showing that, or showing on the opposite side, right, to cover both bases as some threatening, criminal-based, mischievous animal. Well, you trying to say that it's all. Yeah, because I'm not listening to nonsensical behavior. I'm not listening to deflectionary tactics. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. It's like, ugh. It's like I'm like 9 million% not trying to sit there and listen to that nonsense. Uh, but let me sit there and show you something before I go ahead and end this show. So again, who commit the most crimes, continue to commit the most crimes, and then try to deflect, even though you like, what are you talking about? It's logical sense. It's not gonna be all. I'm not playing that game. And as I get older, it's not a kind of sort of. My patience is extremely not listening to nonsensical deflectionary tactics. Not listening, right? But unfortunately, quite a number of American blacks still don't realize the destruction that's heading toward the American black culture. And I just stand by what I say on this. In half a generation to one generation left, or it's not going past the one generation, the American black culture. There's too many internal problems. And then you have other people that are getting over to the country as fast as possible. I'm talking about the ones that are coming to the country as fast as possible. Johnny come lately and Susan come latelys, sitting there believing they think what they think they know about American blacks, which is basically nothing, but they contribute. They think American blacks are some bad version of hip hop. But at the same time, they run as fast as possible from another country with corruption and crime and political upheaval. Oh, they coming over to this country for better opportunities, but they couldn't make better opportunities in their own country, right? But at the same time, they want to come over, the ones I'm talking about, who they are, with few exceptions, but they want to be like personnel within the predominate-based culture, right? But 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 at the same time, again, look at this face. He will be considered somebody within the predominant-based culture. Does he seem like somebody that is relaxing and fun to be around from what I just read about? Thank you for tuning in